Drogheda were looking for their first win over Dundalk at Hunky-Dory's Park since January 1998. Gary McDonough brings us this report.
Dundalk came into this Louth derby full of confidence on the back of a big win in the Cup, and Mark Griffin gave them the perfect start in the 5th minute with a super finish. He had also scored in their 4-0 win over Malahide last week. Drogheda had lost 2 of the last 3 league games and hadn't beaten Dundalk at Hunky-Dory's Park since 1998. They looked to reply quickly in this one, and after some great work by Tiarnan Mulvenna, Peter Hynes was presented with a chance to equalise, but he couldn't find the target. Dundalk, though, were on top, and a quarter of an hour in, Mark O'Brien's teasing ball into the box picked out the head of Michael Rafter, but his effort was easily dealt with by Gabriel Sava. 5 minutes later, the home side had their first shot on target when Peter Hynes' cross rebounded for Ryan Brennan, but his shot didn't cause Peter Cherrie that much trouble. 25 minutes in, Dundalk were in dreamland. Michael Rafter sent Mark Griffin away down the left, and then he cut inside and squared for Rafter, and although his effort was blocked, Griffin was perfectly positioned to bag his 2nd goal of the night and his 4th league goal of the season. Five minutes later, though, Drogheda scored a goal out of nothing. Peter Hynes with a low curling effort that deceived Cherrie, and the Drogs now trailed by 2-1. And they almost equalised 4 minutes later after Hynes fed Declan O'Brien, whose cross seemed perfect for Tiarnan Mulvenna, but some great last-gasp defending by John Mountney denied them. 4 minutes after the restart, Drogheda went route 1. Gabriel Sava's long clearance was headed back by Derek Foran into the path of Mulvenna, but his shot was brilliantly cleared off the line by Chris Shields. But Dundalk kept pushing forward. Mark O'Brien's cross was headed into the path of Stephen Maher, but Sava bravely denied him. The Italian keeper felt it, though. The Lily Whites were desperate to get their first league win since they beat St Pat's way back in May. 20 minutes from time, after a bit of pinball on the edge of the box, the ball eventually was controlled by Michael Rafter, but his rasper just cleared the crossbar. In the final 10 minutes, Drogheda started to throw everything at Dundalk. First, there were shouts for handball after Paul Crowley's cross into the box, before Crowley was then fouled by Chris Shields. Philip Hand's free kick was well saved by Peter Cherrie as Dundalk hung on. From the resulting corner, Tiarnan Mulvenna thought he had equalised, but again he was denied by a goal line clearance. Mark O'Brien in the right place, this time for the away side, and it really didn't look like it was going to be the Drogs' night. But fortune favours the brave. 3 minutes from time, Derek Prendergast won the ball back in midfield, and his great ball was finished to the net by Peter Hynes. The former Dundalk man had his 2nd goal of the night, and it was a priceless one at that. Drogheda weren't finished. Deep into injury time, they grabbed all 3 points. Philip Hand's cross was superbly finished by substitute John Sullivan. What a way to score your first league goal of the season. And from looking dead and buried 6 minutes earlier, the Drogs were in Wonderland. An epic match finished 3-2 to the home side, who stay in 2nd place, while the gap at the bottom is widening between Dundalk and the teams above them.
We gave away, where I felt, 2 sloppy goals, 2 bad mistakes by the centre halves. But I thought once we got the goal back, it settled us down, and then certainly at half time I look forward to the second half, and I think we were back to the way we were playing in the early part of the season.
Disappointed for the boys because they worked so hard, worked extremely hard, and I felt we deserved to win the game, so it's disappointing to get nothing out of it. But look, we'll pick ourselves up and we'll go again next week.
Yeah, a real disappointment for Dundalk in the end there. Richie, you were at that game, and I suppose as local derbies go, it looked like it was a real sort of cut and thrust of a local derby sort of game.
It was a really good game, and the result didn't look like it was coming, to be honest, for a long time in the game. Dundalk started far better than Drogheda. Do you know when you're watching a game and when things are so one-sided, you're looking for an area, is it in midfield they're losing the battle, they're not doing well up front, they're defensively poor. Everywhere on the pitch, Dundalk were just better, just that little bit better. And Drogheda, just the whole performance seemed flat. when it went to 2-0, you think, well, this is only going to go to 3 or 4-0. Drogheda didn't look as if they had much to come back with. The goals, when they came, I mean, the place was rocking by the end. Probably a draw, maybe a fair result. Drogheda would be delighted. And you think, you know, if they need a boost now, we're all waiting for this collapse from Drogheda. You know, you get the sense, and we've been talking all year, they're almost a little bit dismissive of Drogheda and their credentials of winning the league, and that's a huge boost to them, because to come back from 2-0 to do it against your rival, to do it at home in the last minute, you would assume that's a big kick now they need.
Of course, they're only 6 points off Sligo Rovers at the top now. The thing that struck me as interesting there was Mick Cook in the interview afterwards was very critical of the goals that they gave away, and yet when you look at Mark Griffin, the first goal, I thought that was genius.
Yeah, I mean, he is right. Defensively, they were very poor in general, and you could pick defensive flaws with the goal here. But that's brilliant skill to be one player, the back heel around the other player, and then spin around himself. And the finish was brilliant. Sava didn't have a chance. Yes, you could criticise the defence if you wanted it. There was enough evidence there to do so. I'd look at that and you just praise the Mark Griffin.
I think if someone like Messi had to score that goal, we'd be looking at it over and over again on the tapes. Some awareness by the player to know what was behind him. That one touch would get him around one defender, and then the second was just exquisite. Great little pirouette turn, and the finish was great. So I think that's one of the goals of the season.
He was their best player, Mark Griffin, for the whole first half. Deserved his 2 goals. Looked outstanding.
Yeah, the second one was a tap in, Pat, but I suppose a goal like that, I mean, it's certainly a contender for goal of the month, if not goal of the season.
Marvellous goal. And when we were speaking earlier on, and you know, you can say McCook could say what he says about the defence, but you've got to praise skill, and you've got to praise when a lad does that. And as Tony says, if Messi did, we'd be talking about it all year, and it was a marvellous goal.
When you look at the game though, Tony, the fact that Drogheda were able to come back and score those 2 late goals and get those vital 3 points, it suggests that they have kind of built this kind of character, or they have this ability to have faith in themselves, or whatever.
A bit of bounce back ability, I suppose.
That's the word. I couldn't think of the word.
I think, you know, they have shown particularly over the last few months, while they haven't been on a great run, they've been beaten by some good sides like Sligo. I think, you know, they have shown over the course of the season they have a resilience that certainly none of us predicted, that sitting on this couch on the first day of the season. And with I guess the last 20 minutes in the game in particular, they started to apply a lot of pressure. You could see it even from the clips that we shown, but from the tape itself.
Yeah, we'll have a look at
there was a lot of goal mount action, and there's only so long that as a defence, you know, in that Dundalk situation, I think Darius Cairns would be very disappointed with his winger losing the ball in that position. But for me, wonderful header, great ball, but the ball is in the air an awful long time for that Dundalk defence not to be positioned well. And same again, great backstick ball by Hannon, wonderful finish, very cool by Sullivan. But again, for me, you've got to question the starting positions of the defenders. You can't bemoan your luck when you're down the end of the table and say, well, we were unfortunate, it took a bad ricochet. That's basic defending, and I just felt from the Dock's point of view, they'll look at those tapes and they'll say, we didn't have the right starting position to be able to attack the ball after it being in the air for such a long time.
But they look like a team, Pat, that although Gary was saying in the report they haven't won a match since May, or certainly a league match, they look like a team that are capable of picking up a few points. But I know they're bottom of the table. It'll be interesting to see how they do in the coming weeks.
Well, I think so. I mean, you have to give them a chance, obviously, and I mean, they've had a lot of turmoil during the year. But the young lads that were there, I mean, Griffin was outstanding, and he's been he's been their player all year, and he's been great. And I mean, if they can keep on to him, that's the secret, as well as where they get for the end of the season. But if they can get one win, is what they want really, and they can go from there. I
think there's very fine margins as well. You're looking, since Darius Cairns came in, they've got a lot of draws. That win just eludes them, and very unfortunate to come away without a point the other night. I think had they had got that win at a little bit of an earlier stage, I mean, they're by no means adrift. Bray and UCD are still within touching distance, and particularly if they win that game in hand. But at the same time, that little bit of luck is eluding them at the moment in front of goal.
And they play UCD next, which is going to be an interesting one next Friday.